Does chair pose make your legs burn even after just a few seconds? Or maybe every time you try and balance on one foot, you feel like you're gonna fall over? Well, this is day 6 of Start Yoga here, where I'll guide you through chair and a few different more playful variations so that you can feel strong and steady. All right, let's get started. If you haven't warmed up already, now is your chance. We have a bunch of different options available in our Start Yoga in 7 Days guide, and it's linked below in the description. So feel free to take some time to do a warm up, and otherwise, let's get started with a nice gentle grounding. So we'll start doing this standing today. Feet will be about hips distance apart, resting the hands to the side. Think of yourself in a Utkatasana or mountain pose, which will set us up for the rest of the day. Take a few deep breaths in. Shake it out. Relax your body. Feel your feet planted firmly in the ground, palms facing out or just resting on the side. Maybe you can actually bring a hand to the low belly. Physical contact with our body allows us to feel rooted in the present moment. So let's connect with ourselves. Eyes are closed. Take a deep breath in. Exhale. Deep breath in. Exhale. Deep breath in. Exhale. One more time, deep breath in. And exhale, let it go. Shaking it out just a little bit. Let's get started with our chair pose or Utkatasana. Unarguably my least favorite of all of the yoga poses, but one you'll probably be familiar with. So Utkatasana looks a bit like this. This is our chair position. It is like we are sinking back into a chair. You might be wondering, am I just doing squats and yoga? I definitely feel there are some similarities, but let's move into it today. So today we'll be working on our standard chair. It's a couple of different variations that you might see in a class. This is included quite heavily in your Sun Salutation Bs, but it's a really pinnacle posture. I think that happens in a lot of different classes. It's really good for your body and strengthening the low body and the core. So let's get started and let's try it together. So we'll start in that standing position, our mountain pose or Tadasana. There are 2 variations typically that you'll see with chair. One is your feet together, and one is your feet about hips distance apart. We'll practice today feet hips distance apart, but kind of find what feels good for you. You don't want your feet kind of too wide. So they're either going to be those 2 fists hip distance apart, or you can bring them a little bit closer if that feels more comfortable. So feet are about hips distance apart here. We'll start in our Tadasana. And your chair is not going to look like the person next to you's chair, but just follow the cues and see what feels good for your body. We'll start with our hands on our hips. Take a deep breath in, and on the exhale, we have our core engaged, and we exhale, we come down, we bend the knees, and we're sending the hips back as we lift the chest up. We're trying not to overarch the back here like this, so keeping it on one even plane. And your range of motion is going to depend on your bone structure, levels of flexibility that you have in your ankles, if you've had any injuries. So this is going to look completely different on everybody. So go to the depth that works for you, making sure that the knees are trying to keep them stacked over the ankles. We don't want to go over the toes, really protecting yourself here. And the core is engaged. And maybe the arms come up by the ears. So relatively simple, I think of it as a squat position. So let's inhale it up. Our core is still engaged. Exhale, bringing it down. Inhale, coming up. Exhale, lowering down. Now we'll have you lift the toes, so we'll feel some nice firmness in the feet. Now I want you to squeeze the glutes, and I want your glutes to be the things that bring you up to straight. Let's go down one more time. Inhale it up. Thinking of squeezing the butt together and bringing it down. And one more time, coming all the way up. Now we'll move into a few different variations that you will see of chair. One of them is a twisted chair. So sometimes that will look like your hands being together at your heart and twisting over to the side. Sometimes it'll be your arms kind of stretched out. So let's start just with arms stretched out. So we're going to want a block here. That way we don't have to worry too much about reaching the ground. So for this, you'll typically bring your feet completely together rather than hips distance apart. So I want you to look down, see big toes are together, but you have a small gap in the back of the heels. And we'll start, take a deep breath in, hands are on the hips. Exhale, bend into your Utkatasana chair pose. Notice how your belly is. Is it active and engaged? Are you squeezing the core? Are you activating the back muscles? Or are you just kind of squatting down? And adjust, bring awareness to the stomach. So in our twist, the most common thing that I'll see is when people are twisting towards the side, kind of what this looks like, is the hand that is on the bottom, so in this case, the right hand, that knee juts out to the side a little bit like this. So we twist and we see this. The biggest goal here is to keep those hips on an even plane and make sure that the knees are in line. If you're not, it means you're not actively engaging the muscles in the legs, and it can actually lead to injury. So it's incredibly, incredibly important. It's not important how deep you get, but what's important is that you're protecting your muscles and your body and your unique needs. And what that looks like is when you're twisting, if you have to pop the knee out in order to twist deeper, it's better to go a little bit more shallow and honor what your body needs in that moment. This is all about body awareness, what feels good for you, and you are not going to look like the person next to you. So, trying it together on both sides. Bending into the knees, take a deep breath in. We're staring at the block in front of us, finding a spot for it as it makes sense. Maybe just placing the hand down. We've got our right hand down. I'm checking that my knees are in line and my left arm lifts up. Now it might not be high like this, it might be out a little bit to the side, but think of spiraling the chest open towards the side. Even me, I see my knee popping out a little bit, so I need to bring some awareness, bringing it back in towards center. And even though I constantly think about this, it's something that I need to fight against. One deep breath in. Exhale. Now we'll switch to the other side, placing the hand on the block. Seeing if you can sink a little bit deeper. Right hand comes up. Look at your knees. Did one of them pop out? Can you sink a little bit lower? Lift your arm a little bit higher. Deep breath in. Exhale, drop it down. Hands come to the hips and lift it up. Besides our hands down twist, another option that you will see a lot is putting your hands in a prayer position. So what that looks like is bringing the hands to the chest, and we just twist, kind of using the back muscles completely instead of pressing the floor away from us. So we'll try that together now, but if it feels a little bit too intense, feel free to use the variation with the block. They're both the same, they just have different experiences in your body where maybe you're engaging the back a little bit more. So take a deep breath in. Exhale into your chair, but this time with the hands to heart center. We'll start first by twisting as far as we can towards the left. Now, this is about as far as I can go without creating leverage. An option that you'll hear often in class is to take the right elbow, bend down, place it to the outside of your knee, or not your knee, but your upper leg, and then press to create a little bit more of a twist here. Checking to make sure the knee isn't popping out. Take a deep breath in. Exhale. One more. Exhale, slowly come back to center. Inhale, rise it up. And let's flow right into the other side. So we're pressing the palms together, coming down into our chair. And we're twisting left. Using the back muscles as much as I can. Think of those cobra muscles that we were engaging before, squeezing the scapula together. Twisting over towards the right. So the left elbow comes to the outside of the left leg. and presses. Maybe sinking a little bit lower. Are you popping your knee out? Deep breath in. Toes are spread nice and wide. Exhale. And then inhale, come back to center, rise all the way up. And then shake it out, back and forth. You can do a little bit of a dance with your ankles here if it's helpful. And then the last thing we'll work on today is the introduction of balancing in our chair posture. So one of the keys to balancing in yoga is specifically, there's two keys to finding this thing, balancing in yoga. One is your Mula Bandha, which bandhas are a series of energetic locks throughout your body that we talk about a lot in yoga practice. And one of the bandhas is Mula Bandha. And so when you think of Mula Bandha or engaging your Mula Bandha, it's essentially squeezing your pelvic floor. I always think of it a little bit graphic, but I always think of it as the muscles that if you really feel like you need to pee, what muscles would you squeeze? You'll immediately notice awareness in the pelvic floor. Squeezing those muscles creates a lot of stability, control, and balance in the lower half of the body. The next is something called a Drishti, or a focal point, and that's essentially find one spot, stare at it, and do not look away. When you are balancing, you don't want to look at the video, you don't want to look at anything that's moving, because as your gaze moves, your balance will move as well. Sometimes I'll place a block in front of me and stare at it, or find a really interesting spot on the ground, and I will just stare at that spot when balancing. So we'll practice both of these things together. First, we'll have you come into Mula Bandha. Sorry, not into Mula Bandha, into your mountain pose. And we're going to practice engaging our Mula Bandha. So you're in mountain. I'm going to say engage Mula Bandha, and you're going to squeeze those muscles, your perineum, that makes you feel like you really have to pee. You might feel your butt cheeks clenching a little bit. And then release it. Engage your Mula Bandha. And release. And one more time, engage your Mula Bandha. And release it. Wonderful. You're doing great. Good thing we are all practicing from our homes. So next, we're going to find a Drishti. I just want you to find a spot on the floor in front of you, whatever that looks like, and that's what you're going to look at. That's what you're going to stare at today. And you're just going to keep coming back to that spot. So practicing a little bit of balancing here. We'll have our hands on our hips the whole time in our Utkatasana, our chair. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, bend into the knees. A little bit of balancing here. I'm going to ask you to find your Drishti and engage Mula Bandha. Next, shift your weight over to the left foot. So we're still squeezing Mula Bandha. We're gazing forward. And we start to just pick the right toes up, still just touching the ground. Engagement is happening all through the left leg. You're finding that one spot on the floor to balance. And maybe if you want a little bit more, you can lift the knee up. Breathing in. Exhale. If you find yourself wobbling, are you engaging? Are you staring? One more deep breath in. You can always do this by a wall. Exhale, drop it down. And now we'll switch sides. So we're not shaking it out just yet, shifting over towards the right, sinking a little bit lower. Mula Bandha is engaged. Imagine you're squeezing the leg up into the core, staring at that one spot. Toes just lifting to start. Then maybe you bring the knee a little bit higher. Can you sink a little bit lower? Are you squeezing? Breathing in. Exhale. Breathing in. Exhale and drop it down. Rise it up. Shake it out back and forth. And I think that our quads might need a little bit of extra love today. So instead of doing our integration, I think we've done enough squats. So let's take our hands, place them on the thighs, and start to give a little bit of a self-massage. Maybe just squeezing, maybe a little bit of fist movement. Give yourself a little bit of love. And let's come to stand and fully integrate this from a mindfulness perspective. So feet spread, toes spread nice and wide. Back to how we started. Close the eyes. Maybe you have your hand on your thighs or on your stomach. Maybe hands are at heart center. Deep breath in. Exhale. Notice how your body feels. Deep breath in. Exhale. One more. Breathing all the way in, coming all the way to the top, and then holding it at the top. Sink in a little bit more air. Exhale, sigh it out. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes.